This is the crucial final round game of the American Cup. $75,000 at stake. And Fabiano Caruana, who's playing with the white pieces, is in a must-win situation. Or you can also say his opponent, Hikaru Nakamura, is in a must-draw situation as he managed to win the first game of this final in very nice, convincing manner as we discussed in the previous video. But now Fabi with the white pieces, he goes for a 1d4. Hikaru goes for d5, c4, and now another surprise as Hikaru goes for the move c5, which is called the Austrian defense. And this is a very clear strategy by Black. He is putting maximum pressure in the center, wants to trade off all those pawns, and the created open files arising from these exchanges, well, that will give Black possibilities to initiate more piece exchanges very soon as well. This is the Austrian defense and has been played before by Hikaru also in the candidates tournament and many more times after it as well. White decides here to take with a pawn on d5, and now rather than taking with the queen, Black plays the ambitious move knight f6. As you rather recapture with the knight on d5, the queen would be much more vulnerable. And well, there is actually quite a bit of theory here. In my opinion, the critical move here is e4, leading to a sharp play. But the question is if Black is able to hold on there or not. It's a lot of theory, and I think Black is doing okay. Otherwise, Hikaru would not play it that often. Instead, Fabi goes for the move knight c3, allowing Black to take back with the knight on d5. And we do get positions which could also arise from the English opening or from different move orders. Like, for instance, if you do play a move like e4, which is something I faced once, there is the possibility to take on c3. And now after g6, you get the Grunfeld, or after e6 you get the Semitarosh. It's all playable, but the best way of playing here is to go for the move e5. There's a lot of theory, but I managed to make a very comfortable draw with the black pieces against strong Grandmaster Yuri Kusubov from Ukraine. Maybe I'll tell you more about this Austrian defense in another video one day. But Fabi didn't want to go for these forced sequences, but instead played knight f3. And after pawn takes d4, queen takes d4, knight takes c3, queen takes c3, White is saying, okay, you have managed to initiate these exchanges, but I'm up in development, have already developed the knight. The queen on c3 will make it harder later on for Black to develop the bishop from f8. Now, there is knight c6, e4, and there are plans to get the bishop out to b5 very soon. Therefore, a6 was played. And interestingly, this position was reached in the game by Hikaru Nakamura last year in Norway chess. He played against, at that moment, the reigning world champion Ding Liren, who played here bishop e2. And it could very well be that Fabi prepared this improvement bishop e3. Bishop is looking nice, and well, the rook can be developed very soon, for instance to d1. And you can still decide later what you're going to do with the bishop from f1 as well. Bishop g4 played, and now rook d1, questioning the queen on the d file. But the queen goes to a5 and does force the exchange of queens now because of the pin. White captures, queen takes a5, knight takes a5. And well, what are you going to do here? Fabi played bishop e2. Very natural move. The engine even recommends this idea, to play h3 and allow the doubling of pawns. It could be that by grabbing the bishop pair and possibilities to go f4 and e5, you can develop your bishop to the long diagonal. Well, there are some ideas to play for an edge there. Bishop e2 was played. There followed the move e6, trying to get the bishop out. There's knight e5, attacking the bishop on g4. And there followed bishop b4 check. And well, what are you going to do here? And remarkably enough, this is for me the strangest moment in the game, that Fabi didn't play here the move king f1. Instead, he played bishop d2. But why would you, as white, in a must-win situation, offer the exchange of more pieces? with this move bishop d2. I'm thinking something like king f1 is much more clever. Like after the exchange of bishops on e2, this bishop may support the rerouting of the knight via d3, attacking the bishop, and then later to c5. It may not be much, but definitely white is a bit better in this scenario, I would say. Let's have a look at the game. Bishop d2, bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes bishop. So now all the bishops are coming off the board, and black played here the move f6, attacking the knight. And if the knight would drop back now, you can just play king e7. Here you see knight e3 didn't come with tempo, doesn't hit the bishop. Here after king e7, you get a rook into play, knight c6. This looks like going to be a dead draw. Instead, Fabiano Caruana played here this move, b4. He is counter-attacking the knight at the side of the board. And the question is, what should black do? Should black go back with a knight to c6? Well, that will run into knight takes, pawn takes, and rook d6, for instance, and your pawns are in trouble. So that's not such a great idea. The knight doesn't have any other square. So the critical move is pawn takes e5, and white also does capture the knight on a5 with a remarkable pawn structure in a double rook endgame. And which double pawns are more vulnerable? Well, actually both sides, well, they cannot really attack the pawn weaknesses on the a and e file. But black has to play very precisely here. What you would like to do is king e7. But that's not such a great move. It will run into rook b1. And here you see the backward pawn on the b file is a big problem. Because the pawn on a5 prevents the pawn from moving forward. If you go rook ab8, it's rook db2. And you see there's a problem with that b pawn. But instead of playing the move king e7, Hikaru played very precisely. He played rook c8. That's an excellent move. So that after rook b1, you can defend the pawn from the side. Rook c7. Excellent technique. And, well, very soon you can go king e7, get the other rook into the game. And looks like you're doing okay there. Even if you play rook b2 now to attack the pawn one more time, you can castle kingside, which is an excellent defensive idea. You're about to go rook f7 and defend the pawn from the side for a second time. While in case of rook takes b7, it's rook c2 and the pawn on f2 is going to drop. Black obtains enough counterplay in that case. However, white played king f3 instead of rook b2. Now there's rook check, king g3, rook f7. Again, as announced, black is setting up this defense along the 7th rank. Rook b2, trying to tie down those rooks. But you can defend the pawn on e6. And after king g4, where's this king going? You can go king f7. It looks like black is doing fine, but white is, of course, playing on here. Went for the move h4, grabbing more space, saying that, okay, it may not be much, but definitely white's position is a bit more pleasant. King f6, and now look at this. King h5. What on earth is the idea of this move? Well, with a bit of imagination, you see a rook lift coming to the 3rd rank, and then this king could be in huge trouble. Also, if you do play a move like g6 to challenge the king, it's king h6, followed by the same idea, and the pawn on h7. If the king has to go back, it will no longer be defended. So here white is making a lot of progress, but the key move here instead is h6. That is a very nice move to ensure the protection of the pawn. And even white can go wrong. Look at this. If you play rook b3, which was actually the game's continuation, there followed the move g6. Check. And now the pawn on h6 cannot be taken because it runs into checkmate. That is a beautiful mating motive, and that could lead to a loss for white, obviously. But therefore the king has to go back to g4. There is h5, you're kicking the king even further away. But now the worst is over, and after king g3, it is time to become active here with the move rook c5. That is an excellent move. Rook f3 is not leading anywhere. You can hide with the king on g7, everything is fine. Instead, Now there followed this move. Rook takes pawn, rook takes rook, rook takes back. And now you take on a5. And you see the king is absolutely safe on f6. It's supporting the pawns, everything is well covered. Black is even threatening to take the pawn on a2. After rook b2, it's rook a3 check. You play f3, you bring up the pawn. There are many other possibilities as well, but white failed to prove anything here. And it is black who is doing very well. After rook d3, rook c4, you're attacking the pawn. The rook goes back. Now the pawn on a2 is under threat, so you got to go back with the rook. And it's rook d3, and there followed a repetition of moves. And on move 38, it was clear that Hikaru Nakamura became the winner of the American Cup with this very much needed draw in the final round game. Very, very solid performance by Hikaru. And it's interesting to see that Fabiano Caruana didn't manage to break down this, this very interesting opening with this Austrian defense. The immediate tension in the center led to a very quick draw. Hikaru Nakamura is the winner, clinching $75,000 plus a $15,000 bonus as he managed to win also the winners bracket outright. So very, very convincing play. $90,000 for Hikaru for just 1 week playing chess. There are worse jobs in this world. But congratulations to Hikaru on this brilliant performance. And well, if you did like my video, you know what to do. Help the channel to grow. And I will see you in the next video then. Bye bye.